Hey guys, Michael here from michaelsherlock.com. I'm here with the Motorola Droid 2 for Verizon Wireless, and I want to go ahead and give you my review of this unique smartphone. So to just start off, this device is 4.58 inches tall by 2.38 inches wide, 0.54 inches thick, and weighs in at a pretty significant 5.96 ounces. However, with that said, it's not floppy. It's well constructed, well built, feels very comfortable in the hand. I don't worry about this part, especially because it's a slider. I don't worry about this part sliding or falling off. It's very solid. So this is a touchscreen phone, so clearly one of the most important things is the touch screen. So this is a 3.7-inch WVGA capacitive multi-touch display. Images and videos look pretty good, while web pages were easy to read and make out. Now the one problem with the screen that I had was responsiveness. Now, a lot of people have questioned me and saying, oh, you're being biased, it's not responsive, you have a lemon, whatever. Well, all I can say is from using this, it has not been as responsive as I would have liked, especially compared to other phones I've used recently, the iPhone 4, the Epic 4G, etc. It's kind of a little bit disappointing, so just my 2 cents on that. But one of the most unique features about this phone is it's one of the first to ship with Froyo. So what do you get? Voice dialing over Bluetooth, ability to share applications, Facebook integration. This one's pretty interesting. So one of the features you get is for your friends' birthdays can actually sync to your calendar on this device. Now, Facebook birthdays is one of the biggest ways I get information about my friends, so I know when to send them an email, if they're sort of distant, they don't live by me, or when to, celebrate with them and say something to them when I see them during the day. So to have that sync right to your local calendar is pretty useful. But it also includes Flash Player 10.1, and I have a demo. You can go ahead and check that out. Now, a lot of people said, oh, it's not that good. I was actually, to be frank, impressed with the quality of the Flash Player. Obviously, Flash is a resource hog. It did slow down the device and does affect the browser, but it is the quote-unquote full web, which other devices, Eclair devices, iOS devices, don't give you. So whether you need it or not is up to you, but I still think it's a pretty useful feature to have. So now, the next thing, text input, I just want to show you. And I'm a terrible typist on camera, but I can tell you I have used this quite a lot. So you can compose, and there's both a virtual QWERTY board, which I think works pretty well, as well as swipe, which I love. I really am a big fan of the swipe keyboard. Again, that's in both orientations. That will work. But it is affected by screen responsiveness woos. Again, perhaps there is something wrong with this unit. I'm not saying that. But, if the screen doesn't work as well, you're going to start typing the wrong things. Now, there is a physical QWERTY keyboard, which is one of the primary reasons why you'd buy this device. It is much improved over the original keyboard from the Droid, but it's not perfect. The keys are raised, but they're still quite stiff, and they're definitely not as good as the Touch Pro 2, which is the best keyboard I ever used on a mobile device, or even the Epic 4G, which is an Android phone in the same form factor as this. So it's slightly improved, but still is not perfect. So now let's talk about some multimedia features for a second. Because of Android, you get a lot of video codecs and audio codecs that you can play back. MP3, AAC, WMA9, OGG, WMV, MPEG-4, H.264. So you get a lot of content you can play back. But what about creating content? This has a 5-megapixel camera with dual LED flash, but it's not improved over the original Droid. This is the same sensor, same everything. And what's also kind of disappointing is it does not implement the new camera features from Froyo. Pictures on this were fine for a camera phone, but they're very much less vivid and sharp than newer, more advanced mobile sensors that I've seen. Comes right to mind, Nokia N8. That's a 12-megapixel sensor. Even the iPhone 4 and the Epic 4G offered significantly improved video or audio, picture quality. But I was extremely disappointed with the video quality. 720 by 480. That's not good. Come on, Motorola. You even have a Droid X that has it, that has the improved sensor. Why couldn't you just pop this into the Droid 2? I don't know. And another thing, I wasn't even able to upload the file from the device directly to YouTube. That's a problem. So by the time this review goes live, I'll probably have moved the video file from the phone and directly uploaded it from my MacBook Pro without any editing. But that's just an FYI, that's a problem. So let me just show you the camera. It's pretty, it has a lot of features. You can use the volume keys to zoom in. Of course, that is what we like to call optical or digital image zoom, which I am not a fan of. But you have different scenes that you can choose. So if you had a portrait, if you're doing landscape shots, sport shots, a lot of that. And it just closed on me. Let's open that back up. something I like, effects. So let's say you wanted black and white, negative, sepia. Let's do solarized. So let's take I have a pair of 3D glasses here that Nokia sent me. And we want that, so now let's go ahead and just take the picture. That's a really cool picture, I think. And we can go ahead and look at it. And of course, pinch to zoom. So we can go back. We can turn the flash on or off, or we can easily switch to the video camera. And then there's also other settings that you can take as well. Picture resolution, face detection on or off, shutter animation, ISO, sensitivity, exposure. So it gives you a lot of control, but when it comes down to it, the sensor is just a little bit lacking, and there's nothing, software can do about lacking hardware. So now let's talk about performance. Call quality was decent and understandable, but it was not on par with other devices like the Epic 4G. People could easily hear the tin, they could hear a little bit of a hollow sound, and the same thing holds true for speakerphone. So it was not as good as warm of an experience as I've had with other devices. Similarly, I've had some reception issues with this. A lot of people, other reviewers haven't really mentioned this, but I'm telling you right now, I was in a 2-story concrete building. Actually, on the 2nd story, I couldn't connect to the network, EVDO, Verizon Wireless's network. Couldn't make a phone call, couldn't do anything required data, whereas a friend of mine had an LG Dare, he got signal, and he could make phone calls. So that's not really very impressive. In terms of performance, though, this now has an upgraded 1 GHz TI OMAP processor and 512 megabytes of RAM. Apps launched very swiftly, games played nicely, and it was overall a pleasant experience. But it's kind of hard to tell if some of the lag that I was experiencing is from the touch screen that's having some problems, or if it's from the processor. I'm thinking it's from the touch screen, because once I got in an app and I didn't have to touch anything, or if I was playing a game and I could just use the accelerometer, let's say, I didn't have those problems. And it also has DLNA support, before I forget that. So for instance, your Xbox 360 or other DLNA supported devices, you can stream content to it without wires. And that is something that you need to do because there is no HDMI port on here. In terms of battery life, this is a 1400 milliamp hour battery with about 7 hours of real world talk time, so you'll easily be able to get through 1 day, maybe 2 if you push it, which is actually pretty good battery performance for other smartphones that I've tested and use on a daily basis. So let me just give you my conclusion on this. This is a solid Android device with a decent QWERTY keyboard. It's definitely usable, and if you want and love physical boards, you're probably going to want to get this on Verizon Wireless. It has unique features like flash, and it's the first device shipping with Froyo, but I don't think it lives up to the hype, especially at $200 with a 2-year contract. There are other devices that I'd recommend, even on Verizon Wireless with Android. I would probably recommend the Droid X or maybe even the HTC Incredible over the Droid 2 at this point. But if you need a keyboard, physical keyboard, this is probably your only option. One thing to keep in mind, there is an R2-D2 unit launching sort of soon. It'll be limited time and instead of black and blue, it'll be R2-D2 styled. And there actually is rumors of a Droid 2 World Edition that would actually be replacing this in the coming weeks for the same exact price, but you'd actually have a SIM port, so you could use this with a SIM card on international carriers, which is something the Droid 2 does not have. This is not a world phone. So that would be kind of disappointing for people that ran out and bought the Droid 2. But again, in summation, solid phone, but it's just lacking in some areas, and there are definitely better Android devices on Verizon Wireless at this point. I'm Michael Sherlock from michaelsherlock.com. Thanks for watching my review of the Motorola Droid 2. Have a nice day, guys.